halves, it's just the Adidas. The ones who come check out the shower lines. Now, what we had into the cafeteria that came from that 86 uprising, about 150 inmates would be fed roughly every half hour, and it was the only location that had proper heat or air conditioning throughout the prison. Once again, this is a nice large open room, and it does have quite a bit of paintings and artwork on the far surrounding walls, so feel free to wander around so you get a good look at everything while I'm jabbering in there. The only place I have that you do not go is in through the back kitchen prep area door. We have some puddles standing with electrical outlets on the floor. Doesn't seem like a good idea. Plus, that's where the ground is. I do like to point out that a lot of people believe that the Shadow Man's favorite location is in that kitchen prep area, so we always suggest to people to aim your camera through one of the speaking holes in the plexiglass to try to capture him. I hate to break people's hearts and tell them the Shadow Man they think they have captured is actually their own reflection in the glass. So we'll be headed right through here. Feel free to wander around. Coming into the cafeteria, I have a total of 20 minutes to get to the shower line and finish their food. Most of the inmates select the line on this side because of the general population line. Some of those guys will go through there and get their singular tray of food. I only get one tray of food, but you can drink with because they will be considered the dietary line. It's going to take you a little bit longer to get your tray of food, but they will cater to exactly what you need. Now, the food in here was actually very well spoken of. They said you couldn't get a better, cheaper meal in all of Marshall County. The officers themselves, if trusting enough, would pay 90 cents, get a tray of food, and they would have to eat placed behind that wall or a truck on it. The idea of putting the officers behind a blind spot in maximum security prison, maybe not the greatest idea, but it did ease the tension that would occur between the staring match going on between the officers and the inmates as they're in the room facing each other. For that, it was rather effective. However, they quickly realized by overpopulating this cafeteria, the inmates pretty much knew they could get away with anything they wanted. Think about if I over on this side of the room, I get into a fight with another gentleman beside me. How long does it take for an officer behind that wall to realize what's going on? They would way around the wall, not straight to 150 inmates, and then they get over it. So the inmates knew you could get a couple stabs in before anything could stop. Now, there were a couple of extra officers on hand who were pretty stuck in their position. For instance, there is one officer with the kitchen inmate group. He has a really level, they all have butcher knives. As well, there is an officer with 12 gauge who is in that all that thing. Now, I would like to also point out if you look towards the side building, but it's not on the side base, but it takes like you know, people close to the door at all times. I am going to pull us outside or launch on the porch at any of those locations. If you don't want sprinklers on or bring your fence on the camera, please feel free. You don't need to ask permission. Go ahead and step right in the coverage of the building. You don't have to ask me to do that. I'm loud enough. So if the weather does turn on, it's too bad you have an extra alternate round, but still allows you to see every location in the building from a drier location. So no worries, you won't be missing out on anything. Now, the northern side of the building, when we make our way into the yard, I'd like to point out is the older side of the building. Construction done between 1866 and 1899. Now, once you get on board that, every block of sandstone you will see created in any building as well as surrounding walls was actually poured, cut, faced, and laid by the first set of inmates themselves. They sheltered guys in a wooden stockade that was left over from the Civil War, and they forced them to their own creepy castle incarceration around themselves. Now we're going to head back to the building. This is the darkest part of the path, so please let me stand.
So I didn't know if you've ever heard that. That's why we were here.
I would have never put that connection together.
You were looking through it and I saw that. And
All right, guys, you can head on through here. Watch the jacket. really like to love those territories. So you may be able to find like a cool Where's Waldo prison that you can around now that industry building was used for a number of different items to be made and sold to the commissary to be resold to inmates. That helps keep the cost down for everybody involved. But as well, those inmates could sell to outside community members, and that's where those items really gained quite a bit of a reputation. For instance, the rawhide whips were said to be world renowned once Barnum and Bailey Circus announced that they will only get their whips from here. Now, another item that was made for years and years in that building, stereotypically, license plates and highway signs. Yes, we were that stereotype. Now, between only the years of 1982 to 83, there were tons of inmates coming up to the officers complaining about the quality of the paint that is going on the license plates. They said it's cheap, it's dull, it's not sticking the right way, they don't like it. Well, the officers are very confused by this because they know the paint is manufactured here on site. It's the same formula they've used for years and years, and the metal steel cell blocks let us know that it has no problem adhering to metal. So one officer gets, the duty put on him to look into it, basically to appease the complaining inmates. So he picks up the blueprints and one of the beautiful West Virginia blue and yellow plates, and that's when he realizes those license plates are supposed to be blue and white. It turns out the inmates were adding a special ingredient to the white paint to turn it yellow. And us West Virginians were driving around with blue plates on our car for a number of years. We didn't know any better. Now, for your viewing pleasure in the gift shop, we do have an unused, unsold 82P plate if you'd like to check it out after the tour. Now, this fenced-in cage area behind us, there are two separate areas. They're officially titled Yard 1, Yard 2, but often referred to as the bullpens. Now, those are used for the men coming from the cell block for 23-hour lockdown. North Hall is considered the male segregation unit, and because those men are considered so violent, most of which have multiple life sentences, they are kept in their cells 23 hours out of every day, eating all 3 of their meals inside. They can come out for a 10-minute shower and 1 hour of exercise, but because the men are considered violent, that exercise has to take place within inside of a secured cage. Now, originally, those bullpens were protected with just regular barbed wire, but the inmates kept figuring out very creative ways to get around that. If they could steal a tool from the industry building, they may be able to just simply clip and remove a piece of the barbed wire to escape. But even easier, you just take a second inmate, slap him on the barbed wire, and you made yourself an escape bridge. So coincidentally, the same year of the biggest riot, 1986, when they finally decided to put some money into the security around here, that's when they installed those silver shiny circles we see today. That is stainless steel military-grade concertina razor wire. It is a razor blade inside and out the entire length of the line. The most dangerous part found every 3 inches are described as butterfly-shaped fish hooks. Now, those are designed when they sense your muscle movement on the line. They will very quickly curl into your muscle tissue to secure you on the line so you cannot release yourself, simultaneously bleeding you out as quickly as possible. The more you move to release yourself, the deeper and quicker they are going to curl. To give you an idea of exactly how sharp and dangerous it was manufactured by the Gillette Razor Company. And yes, it is the best a man can get. Now, in the same location as the bullpens, before they were erected, you may be able to see that the white foundation wall underneath of it is actually a lot older than the chain link itself. Prior to the bullpens being there stood a 2-story white building with a nice large viewing window up on the 2nd floor. It was showing off the gallows and the electric chair for public executions and lovingly referred to as the death house. Now, in the early years, like I mentioned, community members pay about $12 a ticket. They bring their family in. Everybody has a picnic and a tailgate before the event. Things don't always run so smoothly here just because it was done in the public eye. For instance, in 1931, a very large gentleman named Frank Heyer was up for a hanging for murdering his wife. Now, up until this point, they had never hung a man that's large before. And in fact, they were so nervous, they actually ran a test run with some sandbags. Now, that test run, it came out fine, so they felt no need to adjust the length of the rope. Now, it turns out they should have. When they dropped a large Frank Heyer through that double drop door, he was instantly decapitated in front of everyone. To make matters worse, his head shoots out the 2nd-story window and into the center of the spectating crowd below. Now remember who I told you they shoved to the front row. All the small children that needed the better view. Frank Heyer's head did strike a child in the chest. I'd like to think it's like a bouquet at a bridal party where, like, you're next if you catch it. I don't think that's how it works. Now, that is really when the warden starts looking into executions that run under high invitation only. Now, the way that they really meant this was that only if you are a friend, family member, or loved one of the inmate or the victim can you view the execution. What the warden actually meant was, by invitation only means privately call the warden and offer to buy your invitation only. So it was still very public after that. 7 years later, in 1938, a new law is being enacted in the United States against kidnappers, and the first execution because of that law was actually being featured here, a gentleman named Warlord Adkins. Because it was such big news, they actually had representatives from Time magazine and everything coming out to film this and view this. Now, they had 3 men up in the gallows. It was a triple hanging that day, and they advertised in the paper as such, come one, come all, 3 for the price of 1. And that's what it ran in the local newspaper. So, of course, this place was so packed, they said it was standing room only, shoulder to shoulder. They had to turn people away at the wagon gate because they simply couldn't fit them inside. Now, they have the 3 men lined up at the gallows. As they're getting ready to place the rope around Warlord Adkins' neck, the trapdoor below him opens prematurely by accident. He falls about 12 to 15 feet below onto the concrete, head first, with his hands tied behind his back. He didn't even have a chance to catch himself. Now, the officers have never had a situation like this arise, but they knew the public was watching. So they felt it would be best to send in the medical team to show some sympathy. And everyone agreed on that call, except for the medical team. They argued with the warden that they didn't want to use expensive medical equipment on a death row inmate and told him, well, Mr. Adkins, if you give it about 5 minutes, it won't matter that your bones are broken anyway. So the warden decided to compromise by bringing out a stretcher, tying down Mr. Adkins, taking his lifeless body up to the 2nd floor, and hanging him again, stretcher and all. They wanted to send a message to the kidnappers here in West Virginia. Now, after that, in the 1950s, we do utilize the electric chair. So in total, there's 94 executions, first 85 by hanging. Only 9 men were faced in the chair, and that turned out to be so gruesome that finally the warden said, yeah, we're not going to let the public do that anymore. So, now, the death penalty in West Virginia was abolished in 1965. So after that, they really had no further use for the death house other than storage. Now, the inmates kept complaining to the warden that it was an eyesore and a grim reminder every day. So the warden did sympathize, and in 1967, he had the building torn down. If you'd like a view of what it did look like in the yard, we do have an overhead picture in the gift shop that you can check out.
So they never used the rifle to execute anybody?
No, they kind of talked about it there for a while, but I hate to say it was almost we were a little behind here in West Virginia, I'll admit. So by the time that they're discussing either lethal injection or anything like that is when we're building the chair, and then not too many years later, they already know it's shutting down, death penalties abolished. So they were just, I hate to say, they were just kind of lazy about it. They had a chair, they were like, just use it. It's fine. That's pretty much how they handled it. Now, our next location is going to be right back inside of the main administration building that we're standing. Ground floor here is used for entry in and out of the prison, as well as housing the commissary, loan shop, barber shop, things like that. The 2nd floor above us, payroll and processing, lots of desks and paperwork, very lackluster for the storyline. The 3rd and 4th floors of this administration building were actually kept as a warden's residence. Up until the 1950s, by law, the warden did have to stay within the prison at all times. So because of that, the state kindly invited his wife and children to reside with him inside as well. In fact, one of the wardens had a couple of cells built upstairs so that he could use the maximum security inmates as a live-in nanny. Now, we'll be headed right into the main entrance to check that out. A rotating cage we call the wheel. We can all head back inside. I'm going to lock the door behind us. Feel free to gather around the rotating cage here, and I'll tell you about it. Now this rotating page here is lovingly referred to as the wheel. And basically what it does is it dictates exactly where everyone has permission to enter into the prison. So officer, inmate, staff, visitors, doesn't matter, everybody's gonna step on that wheel, it's automatically gonna spin you to behind that wall, the original payroll and processing office. You're gonna step inside, show the officers your ID, sign into the books, explain who you are, where you're going, why you're here, or the officers will determine where the wheel would like to exit after that. Now, if you were coming in for your paycheck, you probably would have just been fine to stop at the payroll and processing office. If you were coming in for visitation of a loved one before the 1980s, they may have spun you to the opposite side. Behind that wall and seen through the window, if anybody's curious, is the original non-contact visitation before they moved one into the gift shop in the 1980s, the one we saw today on Ford. Now, if you were coming into this area of the prison, as long as you don't have weapons, they'll pretty much let anybody through. Visitation was extremely frequent, and this is right in the central hub of everything. So everybody's going to come using this front door. As well, the commissary is here for most of the years. You can kind of peek inside, and it's actually set up as the leather shop today, but for most years used as the commissary. Now, this is also used in a series on Netflix called Mindhunter. If anybody would have ever checked it out, you can see that wheel in operation. Now, it was installed in 1894, and for the first 5 years, it was actually belt-fed on a trolley motor that they pulled in from Wheeling. But in true West Virginia fashion, we broke it, and instead of fixing it, we just stuck a couple inmates in the basement and made them hand crank it. So that's how we get around it. Now, our next location, we're going to be moving into the day room of North Hall. I like to give everyone a fair warning. There are 2 to 3 stairs to accomplish to get yourself down into the block, so please just watch your step. You guys can follow me right at the front. North Hall cell block is made up of 160 cells, all of which are 5x7x7 with a 2-stage key lock. Now, the major concern for North Hall and that 23-hour lockdown is 2 things. For one, these men are known to be particularly violent. About 95% of them or better have multiple life sentences, and that is why they are kept on 23-hour lockdown, meaning all 3 of those people inside of their cells. Now, as well, North Hall is known for its brutal reputation. It was often nicknamed the Alamo, as it said to be your last name. Very much described as a kill or be killed environment. Now, this is divided into 2 blocks, A block on that side, B block on the other. A block was featuring the cell of Danny Lehman, the leader of the Avengers, unfortunately passed away just on that fence line there. A block itself, also as a singular prison cell block on its own, has seen the most murders in one singular cell block across the entire United States. This was the violent place to be. These men would kill you just for something to do on Tuesday. Now, the fencing that you see in every direction is here for a reason. You will not find this fencing in general population who's a bit more trusted. Now, on the front of the cell doors, you will find our small fencing. And that's to help try to capture solids inside of bodily fluids that would be thrown at officers. That they often refer to as gas. Because of this, officers working here had to wear riot gear just to feed these men. Now, as well as overhead fencing, it is a simple chain link, and I hate to burst your bubble, but a chain link will do absolutely nothing to stop bodily fluids. This was installed in very late years when the volunteers figured out how to light things on fire before throwing them at the officers. Now, often the things that inmates are willing to toss away out of the cell catch on fire for an officer. Among the most popular are a pair of shoes, your pillow, your mattress pad, or your cell phone. So as you run through this fence line, you will notice how many times the fence is dramatically dented down, and you can imagine the weight of a pillar cannot accomplish that. Now, as we make our way through, I'm going to name some interesting features of the cells, and as we make our way down, feel free to step inside any of the cells you'd like to closer look at with two fair warnings. Number one, do not sanitize the surfaces within the cells. You would end up ruining the original inmate artwork inside. And number two, as funny as it is, please do not slam the door on the ground. Not only is it scary, it's pretty cold in here today, there's a good chance that steel will expand and I will not be able to get it open. Now, if you lock your friend or yourself in a cell and that gets stuck, I'm the muscle to get you out. So judging by the size of my arms, probably don't shoot the door. Now, this is another low clearance area. If you're any taller than me, which is probably at least half the floor, please watch your head. You guys can follow me right now, or start me up. Now, really, the second village is like the violence that came from the wall was overpopulated. Now, if you are in general population and you get yourself in trouble, you're not going to hesitate for 1 second and turn it straight to 20 down long. And that is really what is causing what's called these conflicts. Now, in the prison itself, there are less than 800 cells, but at the max peak of overcrowding, they had 3,000 inmates. And this cell block alone, one of the reasons we got shut down is for that small size of the cell, 5x7x7. These cells would house 3 men inside. Originally, there were 2 bunks. I will say we usually a lot of the top ones were taken down for safety, so they jumped on and collapsed. But originally, there were 2 bunks. Now, that does leave a third gentleman. He has an option. He can either sleep the top tier of the Warlord and Awesome Rays is 140 degrees, and that's the day with nobody. So imagine that crowding it. Now make your way down to cell number 9. It's my personal favorite, occupied by Danny Alexander. He calls himself Scrappy. He was a tattoo artist of a lot of obvious love for art and music. You may have seen one of Scrappy's shirts in the gift shop. It's got Guns N' Roses. There's his logo and visual all over it. And that's basically his walking billboard.